مولاي صل وسلم دائما أبدا على حبيبك خير الخلق كلهم مولاي صل وسلم دائما أبدا على حبيبك خير الخلق كلهم محمد.
We praise Allah and glorify Him, and we beseech Him this night most humbly for His guidance and for His blessings and for His protection as we attempt to address the subject beyond September the 11th attack on America, the future of the Muslim Ummah. And we pray for peace and for blessings on all His noble messengers, and in particular on the last of them all, the blessed Prophet Muhammad sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wasallam. I would like to take about 1 hour of speaking time, because tonight I would be much more interested in your writing to me all the questions you have, and not just your questions, your thoughts, your comments. So that tonight is not only my lecture to you, it's also your feedback, because one man can't handle this subject. It is the collective thoughts and the collective wisdom. And wherever I have traveled in the world, and Allah has been so kind, you'd be amazed to know the number of places I've gone. I've invariably benefited from my audiences. I've learned so much from my audiences. We begin in Allah's blessed name. The ayah of the Quran, of course, Surah An-Nahl, I always begin with this ayah. And we sent down the Quran, sent down the book, the Quran, on thee, O Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, that this Quran might explain all things. And therefore that this Quran might explain the strange world in which we're living today. It's not just politically strange, with its political globalization, moving in the direction of world government. And that tomorrow when the United Nations will disappear. It's not only strange in its economy, moving in the direction of globalization of an economy, a world economy, in which one people will now enslave all of mankind. It's not only strange in respect of the emergence of one way of life, one culture. I call it the blue jeans Jamaat. Everybody living the same way. Everybody having the same diseases around the world. Being born the same way, being dying the same way, being buried the same way, around the world. It's not only strange in terms of what is happening to mankind, but what is happening to the environment, the earth. Around the world. The same thing, which is why they had that conference in what used to be called Johannesburg, now it's Igoli. Gauteng. The Johannesburg World Summit. And we are now living in that age in which Islam, not part-time Islam, no, we're talking about the Islam of Muhammad sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wasallam, that Islam. That Islam is becoming something stranger and stranger. Something different from the rest of the world. Different from that globalized political order. Different from that globalized world economy. Different from that globalized culture or way of life. On September the 11th, the United States was attacked. We know from eyewitnesses that there were 2 aircrafts which struck at the Twin Towers in Lower Manhattan. And it could be that the aircrafts themselves caused the buildings to collapse. It could also be they got some help from some dynamite and so on planting before. We know from eyewitnesses that there was a 3rd aircraft which crashed in Pennsylvania. And no less an authority than the White House itself confirmed that aircraft, the plan was for that aircraft to target Air Force One and to target the White House. And we have unconfirmed reports because no one saw, and there was no evidence on the ground. Absolutely astonishing, isn't it? A huge aircraft slams into a building and there is no evidence that the aircraft ever existed. The Pentagon. America was attacked on September the 11th in circumstances which were absolutely suspicious. Who attacked America on September the 11th? And we have said that there is a massive cover-up on the part of the Bush administration. And we have anticipated that those who have information so far concealed will eventually release that information in order to embarrass the US government as part of a strategy to bring down America. And so CNN is going to be broadcasting it. And the New York Times is going to have a field day. And all those who control the media in the United States are now going to go to work to lavishly publish all of this information which demonstrates beyond doubt that the US administration was involved in a massive cover-up. Who attacked America on September the 11th? We used a method. We said, since we do not have the evidence which can be used in a court of law, let us look to see who has benefited. And when we use that method of analysis, we have come to the conclusion that the only beneficiary of the September 11th attack on America has been far and away the State of Israel. There is a little booklet outside, A Muslim Response to the Attack on America. It's just about 25, 28 pages. I want to suggest to you, and it's very cheap, I think maybe $2. I want to suggest to you it might be a good idea to take this booklet and give it out to people who you think ought to have a little bit of brainstorming. Because when they read this, they'll be stunned. They won't get this in their newspapers and from the mainstream media in this country. But when they read this, I think they're going to have, for some of them, an intellectual wake-up call. So that booklet is downstairs. We said that those who attacked America, therefore, must have at their core the Israeli Mossad. And they must have benefit and help from many others within the United States, within the administration, even from within the White House. When we look at their strategy, we see that they put on board the aircraft a large number of Saudis. Sounds suspicious. Why so many Saudis? And these are not Saudis who are well known for their Islamic fervor, for being what they call militants. No, these are middle of the road, normal Saudis who drive BMWs. Huh? People who attended American universities, for example. They were on board the aircraft and they died when the aircraft crashed. So these were the hijackers, except that one of them read in the newspapers that he was dead. So he went to the Saudi government and he said to the Saudi government, "It seems to me as though I'm alive." The Saudi newspapers published this article, which I read with my own eyes. This particular student had studied in Minnesota, I think, in the early 1990s. And in 1995, perhaps, he had reported both to the local police and to the Saudi embassy in the United States that someone had broken into his apartment and stolen his passport. Whoever did that used that passport to hijack his identity, and so they could put him on board the aircraft. And so the planning for September the 11th, 2001 started many, many years before. Which reminds me, I must tell you that when I arrived in New York in April 1991, through Allah's leave and kindness, within a matter of 6 months in New York, I had already been pushed to a very high profile position, very well known in the entire New York metropolitan area. And then in November 91, when I had gone to the State University of New York in Stony Brook, someone broke into my apartment and stole only my passport. That's all. So if ever you get the news that Imran Hussain blew up the moon, you'll understand the background. They're holding it. They have not as yet used it. But the more I talk about it, the less likely that they can use it. My passport, therefore my identity. Why so many Saudis? It's suspicious. And why these middle-of-the-road Saudis? The answer is because Saudi Arabia, the government of Saudi Arabia, has a friendly relationship with the United States. In fact, there is something common between the state of Saudi Arabia and the state of Israel which would surprise you. They are sisters. The same forces who work for the establishment of the state of Israel are the same forces who work for the establishment of the state of Saudi Arabia. The same forces who have kept Israel alive today and guaranteed Israel's security are the same forces who have kept Saudi Arabia alive today and has guaranteed Saudi Arabia's security. And when the state of Israel is to be destroyed, Saudi Arabia also goes down into the garbage bin. They're sisters. But at the moment, the friendly relations and the good press which Saudi Arabia receives in the media in the United States of America, and the fraternal relations between the government of Saudi Arabia and the government of the United States stands in the way of those who attacked America on September the 11th. In what way? I said to you last time I was here that the United States cannot attack Iraq until a particular moment arrives. And I gave you some homework. I ask you to think. Iraq does not pose any threat to the United States. It does not pose any threat to the state of Israel. The Israelis have to be digging and digging and digging for a strategy to be able to make Iraq look threatening. So now they're coming up with all kind of fancy theories about biological weapons and weapons of mass destruction and so on. It's just dust in the eye.